Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first council meeting of 2024 and the first full year of this council. Thank you ever so much for coming out on another cold January evening. Lovely to see you all, and happy belated New Year. Huge agenda, big attendance from the public today, and lots of council reports, so we'll crack on. Firstly, housekeeping. There are no planned fire alarms. If the alarm should sound, please exit the building using the nearest available fire exit. Once leaving the building, please make your way to the muster point, which is located by the staff car park and is identified by a green sign positioned in the shrub bed. Please make yourself known to a member of staff if on duty. The meeting may be recorded, and the meeting may also be recorded and broadcast by the press and members of the public. Please see Section 8 of the Guidance of Public Participation, including recording and use of social media at meetings. May I ask, can the last row hear me, please?
Yes.
Fantastic. Councillors, please remember to speak loudly and clearly to make sure everyone in the room can hear you. Thank you. Apologies for absence, please.
So, Councillors Stephanie Osborne, David Cole and Natalia Martinez.
Thank you. Okay. We're now going to move on to declarations of interest and dispensation. To note any declarations of interest made by members in connection with an agenda item, members to specify the nature of the interest. Do we have any? Okay. And have we got any written requests for dispensation to grant any requests as appropriate? Thank you. Moving on. We now move on to our community safety update. We're very fortunate to have with us today from the police, Sergeant Philip Brown and Nathan Grimley with us. So no further ado, I'll put the floor over to you, Sergeant Brown. Thank you.
Many thanks. I know you've got a lot on, so I will try and be as succinct and quick as possible. Many of you would have seen in the local media recently that Hampshire Constabulary has decided to change the makeup of the local policing team, adapting that to mirror the demand of heightened crime within all of our areas and the necessity for consistent and regular visibility on our streets. With that in mind, as he sits by my side, we now have a designated neighbourhood officer. This is PC Nathan Grimley, who will be the single point of contact from our team, and as such his phone number and email will now be readily available to all of the community who wish to make him aware of developing issues and correspond with him. That will be available through Police UK, and as this role materialises, we'll look at other ways to which we can identify and put those details out into the community. Nathan will focus on developing series of crime or issues that are occurring within the waterside, working hand in hand with our team of PCSOs. But understandably, won't be responsible for all crime, and that responsibility will still remain with the remaining officers who are part of our neighbourhood team. Nathan's aim will be to tackle regional priorities, targeting repeat offenders quickly and to deter from repeat offending so problems don't escalate into something on a much grander scale. We also have now in our department a new inspector, Linda Davies, who's transferred across from supporting the chief and assistant chiefs of the whole force in their roles. She's someone with a huge amount of knowledge and who will be able to steer the community policing that we do in the upward trajectory. So I always give a few little stats just to make you aware. With regards to the waterside area that we police, there have been 422 incidents reported in the last month. 84 of these were for the Hive demographic. That equates to around 19% of our workload. Over that 3-month period, it's 1,330 incidents, and Hive has 233, so 17.5% of our workload, so consistent in demand for the area. There is a slight rise in demand. That is, however, linked to another pilot scheme to which we've introduced into the area regarding shoplifting. We've started to prominently address the nominals that have been known to come into the area and repeatedly offend. We've readdressed the shoplifting pilot theft scheme with our shop watch schemes with the local stores in the area. We now address every single incident of shoplifting within the area, constantly scanning the matters that come, even if they go through our triage hub, which is something I've explained to the room before. If they're filed by that, we will then go and find those matters, go and engage with those stores, and look to carry out golden hour inquiries, which is basically CCTV inquiries and witness statements. We look to view and circulate that CCTV as quickly as possible, so we as a localised team with knowledge of the offenders in the area can highlight suspects and then put them before courts via a summons file procedure. Within this area, we have 6 priority nominals which we've managed, and we have PCs assigned to them, the 3 remaining PCs within the team, each carrying 2, who are tasked to engage and specifically target their behaviour as soon as it occurs. So the idea is that if someone shoplifts and we can identify that person, we can have a summons file, a court file ready within a 48-hour period. To give you an example, 3 of these priority nominals have been in court in the last months and they were sentenced on 11 charges. So far the scheme is running really, really well. The demand that has switched back on us is understandably very, very high. The idea is the more we target these people, we'll drive them out of the area. And we also are looking to address the behaviour to which they are shoplifting for, which in our experience, and based solely on the 6 priority nominals that I mentioned, is drug use related. With regards to progressing other matters aside from shoplifting, we have 243 investigations in the last 3 months. That's up from the last period last year, and compared to our counterparts over in Totton and that geographical area, we have a higher and more demanding workload. The figure aligns to the fact that each PC will take on a new criminal investigation each day that they are on duty. Of those incidents, we've spoken before about trying to keep matters away from the courts if we can, and so there's out-of-court disposals. 1/3, 34% of those are dealt with by my team at the first point of contact. With regards to us going out and about, stopping people, inquiring into their behaviour and searching them for criminal-related matters, 58.8% of those stop searches have resulted in positive outcomes. Gathering evidence, listening to our community and recording what we do, we have received 199 pieces of intelligence over the last 3 months. That's up from the December period of last year, and that I think shows a great commitment to the fact that despite our workloads going up, we're still listening, we're still recording, we're still trying to action that intelligence. It links in daily with a intelligence officer who analyses what is relevant and what can be progressed, and then if we can build up a bigger picture with regards to drug use or drug dealing, for example, then we'll use that information to secure warrants from a court and then action those, as we have done over the last few months. Progressing forward, we will remain tasked with large amounts of risk management. We focus solely on the vulnerable in the area, but that can be children, DV victims, the elderly, and most vulnerable, specifically when it comes to the youth, are individually managed by PCSOs, and they are regularly visited over the course of a month period. We carry out various operations over December. We targeted heavy areas that we know have been affected by ASB. We know that there is a number of issues that have been raised by the ACSOs and the community themselves involving a large group. This is certainly a concerning issue, and one that as a team we, rest assured, spent a hell of a lot of time, which PC Criminally can attest to, on obtaining evidence, countless statements, CCTV, and 2 of the more prominent offenders have already been detained and interviewed. I am able to say that one of these offenders has been moved out of the county over the last month or so. Other offenders who are affiliated with these 2 ringleaders, for want of a better word, have also been dealt with by means of those out-of-court disposals. And those out-of-court disposals will always be the first port of call when it comes to youth offenders, as I've stated to the room before. The path in terms of finding appropriate routes and appropriate manners in which to deal with children has to go through a youth offending team, so it's not a decision that we can base locally. It has to go up through a matrix, and then various other inputs are taken into consideration when it comes to how these children should be dealt with. It is a shame that the group, or some of the groups, repeat to offend. We do try and deter as best we can, intervention with the parents, but we can only address as quickly as we can with the restrictions that we hold. So they are very much at the forefront of our patrols when we do get out and about and our duty, and I'm sure that's the case with the ACSOs as well. Moving on with the youth lines, we've engaged with local schools on prevention around knife crime and county lines drugs. Burglaries and theft from motor vehicles is a problem that is affecting the whole of the New Forest, but I am happy to say that the number of offences that occur in this local area are much, much lower than everywhere else. We as a team, however, if any incident does come forward, we identify lines of inquiry that can be progressed. Again, even if that matter is filed at first port of call through the triage hub, and we are reaffirming this as a sector priority. We understand that the impact any intrusive crime like this has, so we always identify that we can support anyone with reassurance visits through that process. It's not just about, with that sort of crime, investigating the crime. Speed in the speed watch schemes, I know is a consistent problem in the area. We have running schemes in Marchwood and Fawley, and we're always open to local community groups that want to come together and start their own speed watch scheme. We work off the figures to which are gathered by those speed watch schemes. We do have the ability to bring people into the area from the constabulary, but that takes a hell of a lot of intelligence, a hell of a lot of recurring incidents in one designated area to bring that speed, to bring the constabulary speed watch scheme into the area. Social media, we will always try and evidence and involve the communities we serve by documenting the work we do on our Facebook page, and Nathan is heavily involved in the content that you see. We're now moving forward also with using regularly the Police UK site regularly, and going back to Nathan's contact details and the makeup and genetics of our waterside team, that will also be heavily documented on there. Here we'll advertise the regular beat surgeries that are available in the waterside area, not necessarily just Hyde, but we always look to provide one period each week to which you can go and speak to a police officer or a police support officer. We appreciate how important it is to have that face-to-face contact, and this is something that different to other teams across the New Forest. I feel this is important. This is something specific to the waterside. We'll also be making people aware of the police neighbourhood alert scheme, a new communication tool where updates can be sent out via email, and they can be specifically targeted to you based on the locality. If there's a developing problem, as I said, Nathan's role, it's new, it's materialising, it's still in its infancy, but the idea will be that Nathan will communicate directly with the community based on what he's doing and based on what we are doing with the team through this tool. And the more and more people that we can sign up for this scheme and make aware of it, the bigger the coverage will be. And we are ultimately just trying to build levels of communication. We understand that we can't be everywhere that everybody wants us, and the days of the Bobby on the beat are long since gone, as I've attested to before. But what we're trying to do is find clever, precise and quick ways to which we can listen to what you're saying and deal and articulate with those problems. I'll put it out to the room, Zeb. Any questions? Tell me about that.
Thank you very much, Michael. Before I come to councillors, I would just like to propose that after councillors had a few questions, if we have a short out-of-council session to ask if any members of the public had any questions for the Sergeant. Can I have a second? Would that be, are you happy with that? Would we have any counter points to that? Would you be happy to allow some members of the public who might have a specific question, crime and safe behaviour, to ask Sergeant Brown? Yep. All in favour? Thank you. So I'll come to council. So I've got Philip and Mark, and then I'll come with a question. Councillor Garrett first.
Thank you. Well, the first one isn't a question, it's a comment from one of our residents who would like to express her thanks with the work you've done it's particularly the boy racers that do the trips between the supermarkets and stuff. She has noticed a decrease in that since there's been intervention. So we'd like to express her thanks for that. The other one, I won't talk about the specific case itself, just in general. It was brought to our attention when we were speaking to members of the public that there was a targeted attack on a vehicle that happened. I think there were 2 specific attacks on the same vehicle where the tyres were slashed. And I believe there might have been an element of a hate crime behind it. Can you reassure us that should a further attack happen on the property, that will be followed up, and that there will be an increasing level of consequence for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you use a certain word there, a certain phrase of hate crime. If when that matter was reported, it was reported as a hate crime, there would 100% be an attendance by one of our team. That is something that we will go to each and every time, and we do a risk assessment based on that hate element. And then obviously, once that is then mentioned, we will always look at any reoccurring offences that will occur on that. I'm not aware specifically as to what you are referring to.
I think the individual details, that it's just the process.
Yeah, I can hazard a guess, but if it's the incident that I believe, understandably, if it was a repeat offender, then we would, to give you context, every time you report an incident to the police, obviously it goes against your name. It would be looked upon that if you were a repeat victim, so if you had 3 incidents against your name as a victim within a 30-day to 90-day period, then you would immediately become a priority victim, and again, attendance would be ensured. So that would certainly be targeted, yes.
Thank you.
No worries.
Councillor Mark Clark.
Can I just ask just a couple of questions? I was very recently a witness to some shoplifting over at Nichols. And the guys got out into the van before I could take a number. But when I spoke to members of the staff, they said that this is on the rise. And I just wonder whether you, from your stats, whether you've seen across the waterside a rise in shoplifting. Was there any actions that have been taken? And there's a second question as well. It's totally different. It just, again, there was a resident mentioned to me that they had a bunch of tools taken out worth about £9,000 out of their van. And that a neighbour had some CCTV of it, and the offer hadn't been taken up. And I just wonder whether you've got any idea whether that sort of evidence is useful.
Okay, so if I go with the first one first, we obviously, I counted on the fact that we are starting to engage more with the shop watch scheme and go to every single shoplifting. I'm delighted to say that it's been a really positive response. So if shoplifting is on the up, yes it is. That's kind of countered by the fact that more shoplifting is being reported as opposed to certain stores which were like, with the greatest respect to our constabulary, they're not going to do anything about it and we're not going to progress it. I think what we're showing as a local team is we will explore every avenue available. So it is on the rise. For some reason, Waterside is a targeted area, and that's why we're specifically running with this pilot scheme. It will take time, it will take a lot of effort to drive people out of the area and to let them know that that behaviour won't be tolerated. But I wouldn't say that there's a dramatic incline, it's just a steady flow of situations. The second incident, it's always difficult when you give that sort of example. I can't 100% say that we have looked into that matter. It sounds very familiar, those circumstances. I attested to there that it is a forced priority with regards to burglaries and theft from motor vehicles. It may well be that someone's called into the triage hub, they've relayed those circumstances, and they're going through the matrix and the risk. The constabulary or that representative of the constabulary has decided that they won't pursue that crime. That doesn't necessarily mean that we can't look at it and then say that we will look into that matter. With something of that sort of value, that would tinker between whether it's our responsibility as a neighbourhood team or within the New Forest we have a priority crime team who would look at that and see if it links in with other thefts from around around the area with a similar MO, a similar methods to which they're stealing, and again look at whether there was available CCTV. I find it very hard to believe that if we were aware of CCTV being here, that we wouldn't obtain that. If you want to give me some personal details, write them down and ask them when I leave, I'll happily look into that and then feed that back.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Malcolm Wade.
I think September had it.
No,
Okay, well, thank you again, Simon. That was a very good report. A lot of really, there's a lot of stuff going on. I found the other day a letter went to the press from a councillor on this council in the mid-90s complaining that there are only 33 officers in the Waterside team, which you would love to have only 33 officers now.
It is the dream.
Yeah, it is. And I totally understand that. Crime figures locally, I think in certain areas you mentioned have risen. With that, fear of crime rises. And a lot of the stuff that you've explained today, the vast majority of the public don't know what's going on. And the point is, to deal with the fear of crime bit and to show the public the amount of work that you guys are putting out, you really need to find a way to get it to a wider audience, because the public genuinely don't know. Obviously the ones you catch know, because you catch them. But, all joking apart, then that's something that I think that you need to consider, because there is a lot of good stuff going on and you've shown that. And we need to get it to a wider audience so the public know that the police are there, are working. But policing now is different to policing 30 years ago, and it's more of a multi-agency approach. And the other question I ask is there anything Safe Living Forest can do more to assist you in the pursuit of your constabulary in pursuit of their duties? Because one of the issues I raise regularly at the district council is, well, what are they doing to make the community forest things a general a safe place? Because it's called Safe Living Forest. So I put that question, if there's anything that you think they should do more, you need to let us know and we can take it up with district council.
Absolutely, and we always do that. With regards to your first sentiment, I completely agree, and that kind of echoes what I was trying to say. We work heavily based on how the constabulary wants us to move forward with regards to social media documentation. Now, I'll be the first one to put my hand up and say I don't use social media, I don't like it, and I believe it causes more trouble than it achieves. But that's what we're trying to say specifically with Nathan about building those lines of communication. We need to find ways that we can speak with the whole demographic in a way that everybody can be updated. Now, email would be the easiest way. I've explored whether we could do that via a text message, for example, but there's a cost attributed, and when you start spreading it out, all of a sudden the cost spirals and it's counterproductive in that manner. So we will certainly be exploring that, and as I said, Nathan will be exploring those lines of communication and getting out into the community and listening, so we will certainly be doing that. With regards to addressing matters, it's not that we don't, as you said, it's multi-agency, so we're calling on people where we can, but it's a day and an age where everybody's got an agenda, everybody's got a direction, everybody's got responsibilities and commitments. So there's nothing direct per se. The ACSOs, we've spoken before about building those lines of communication. They do a fantastic job. They are our eyes and ears when we don't have the ability to put any eyes and ears out on the street. So we feed off that information. But ultimately we just need to keep going with what we do and hope. The figures and all of these figures are constantly fed back to the powers that be above in the hope that we can bring more police officers into the area, but it's easier said than done.
Fingers crossed.
Indeed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does any other councillor have a question before I invite members of the public? Okay, so as we've already agreed to out of council session, do any members of the public have a specific question aimed at the police they wish to ask? Ms. Fairhead?
Thank you.
Okay.
Sergeant, I did have a serious point to put to you, but I think you've addressed most of it yourself tonight, and I thank you for that. It's only a matter to see whether your way forward works, which I hope it does. So rather than waste our colleagues' time, I'll give you a note of what I was going to say and ask outside so you can take it away and deal with it, save time in here. But thank you for the initiative that you're bringing forward.
No worries at all. I think I'll practice what I preach, and what we'll do is we'll pass that note on to PC Grimley. He'll email you, and then there's that open line of communication to which you can move forward if you have further problems. We don't think that we are addressing it in a manner suitable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other member of the public? Yes, please could you introduce yourself and ask your question, please.
Yeah, it's not so much a question now because my name's Rose Ratcliffe and I live locally. I was very concerned about the increase in antisocial behaviour and that it seemed to be a small group of people who were causing a lot of disruption. And I just wondered what the next steps would be. But to be honest, I think you've answered quite a lot of that in what you've already just said. And hopefully with the appointment of somebody, an officer you can contact direct, that will help the situation. So I think my question's been overtaken by what you said, but it's good to know that action is being taken and at least we can monitor now what's happening locally.
Absolutely, and it certainly is. I don't want anyone to think that we're not addressing this young group, these young males, which I'm happy to kind of label. But as I said before, it takes time. There's a lot of multi-agency work. We integrate with the schools that they go to or don't go to in some cases. As I said, we're working with other agencies, and that then leads to a certain child getting moved out of the area into a more habitable region for him, to which he might be able to turn a corner. So, but as I said, this is what this new process is all about. We don't want people thinking that nothing's happened, so the more communication we can put out into our demographic, into our covered area, then hopefully people will start feeding off what we are doing day to day.
And it's just worth adding to that obviously there's elements that cannot be shared publicly, but it's also a good example of the partnership working, yourself, the charity associations, the ACSOs, so from the forest, that there's a lot that's being done. Residents are absolutely right to raise concerns because you might have seen the ACSO report, I worked out at least 7 or 8 I could attribute to that group, right? And that's correct, isn't it? So if that group are being, you're proactively aware of them and you're dealing with them, then it's an ongoing process that will help reassure the public and at least show that steps are being taken. So, and that's sort of my question as well. But thank you for that.
Yeah, it's obviously it's a perception, but ultimately the bigger picture is, as I've said time and time again, that when we're always looking to provide that educational element to children when they make these mistakes or they commit these crimes. So it's not as easy per se as an adult who shoplifts. To give an example, we can obtain a few pieces of still evidence from CCTV, a statement from a victim, and pretty much put that before a court. The process would take tenfold that amount of time with a child because you have to give them the benefit of the doubt. You have to learn why they might be committing that crime as just in terms of just accepting the fact of they are naughty or they are a bad person. It's not as easy as that. So that's where
Thank you very much. We did have a statement partnership presentation at the district, so I'm aware that the shoplifting figures are up, but some of the other figures you mentioned are down.
Yeah.
Like, sort of antisocial behaviour and burglary crime was down, but business crime is up. And I know there are other areas in the forest that have got frustrating opinions on the matter. It's diplomatic, but I do know, I am aware personally of the work that you've been doing in Hyde, in particular in the village centre to do with shoplifting. That is really appreciated. Thank you. There's no other questions in the room, so in that case I'll let you enjoy the rest of your evening.
I don't know, and enjoys the shop.
I mean, it's got to be a short time. I think it's a short time. Thank you too much.
So it's thank you very much. Councillors, we happen to go back to the council session.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Now there's proposal and second, please. Thank you. Over. Thank you. So we now move on to item B, 3B, which is the ACSO's report. Have you all had an opportunity to read it and have any comments or questions from councillors? As you will understand, there are obviously some quite a few concerning issues in there, but it's consistent to that group that were highlighted by the police and by the ACSO, and the work is ongoing. There's a couple of occasions in here where the ACSO proactively being on patrol and made a difference, and that's really important to see. But it's a very busy time. But any questions that you have, please raise with Mike and Charlie, and obviously do not hesitate to contact them on any issues, okay? Thank you. We're now going to move on to the minutes. The last time we had full council, which believe it or not was back on the 22nd of November 2023. So, if you could go to page, well I have page 77, but page 1 of the minutes, we'll go page by page, and if there's any challenges, please raise your hands, okay? Let me know when you're ready, councillors. You alright? Perfect. So, page 1 of the minutes, please. Thank you. Page 2, please. Okay. Page 3. Thank you. Page 4. Councillor Eleanor.
Minute 1, 2, 3. It says I asked about the CCTV. I can't remember doing that. I think if I did answer anything about the D-Day 80.
Okay.
I think you asked a question to Councillor Dowd whether he had an update.
Yeah, on D-Day 80. I can't think.
It was on the
It was on the
there was no update, so.
Okay. Page 4. Page 5. And lastly, page 6. Do we all agree they're a fair reflection of November 22nd's full council meeting? And if so, can I have a proposal, please? And second, all those in favour, please? Anyone against? Thank you. So they are approved. And we'll sign them now. So, we now move on to the Chairman's announcements, which is item number 5. There is quite a few, I'm afraid, so I do apologise. I'm going to start with High Cinema. Last Tuesday, we had 177 people attend the Parish Council's monthly showing of The Great Escaper, which was a fantastic turnout for both showings, almost a sellout. I thank you to the residents for their support for this wonderful council initiative, and to officers and councillors for really helping to promote the local community cinema. Last month's show, Barbie, certainly brought some new attendees and was very popular, and I urge all councillors to promote February's quite charming film, The Miracle Club, which has got acting roles for Dame Maggie Smith and Kathy Bates, and try and encourage residents to make a day of it with local pubs, cafes and restaurants. On a slightly less positive note, we have the HCC budget consultation, and I would urge all residents and councillors to complete the budget consultation, which runs to March the 31st. It features several proposals which will have a direct and detrimental impact on our community, such as risk of closures of the Marchwood Recycling Centre, loss of school crossing patrols and cuts to highway maintenance, public transport and adult social care grants. The county faces budget challenges, but it is important to highlight the value of residents having their say and making their views known to the county council. Christmas. It feels weird mentioning Christmas, and it was ages ago, but I wanted to thank the Parish Development Officer, Hyde Line and local businesses and volunteers for the mistletoe fair. It was wonderful. It was really magical to see the village so busy, and my thanks to the volunteers, the Waterside Fire Engine, Hyde Farmer Christmas and Iworth Creek Walk Christmas lights for once again making Hyde Gifford second only to the North Pole for Christmas magic. I really genuinely think it's special at Christmas, and it's important to highlight. It is the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings on the 6th of June, and the community will be commemorating this important day with some events and initiatives. Councillor Dowd, alongside local community groups, are exploring ways in which Highland Lytton ensure we play our part in marking this moment and honouring what was a turning point in World War II. More information will be available in upcoming months and will be shared with the community. Beechwood Park. Hampshire County Council's Countryside Project Officer has responded to the parish officers, advising that contractors have visited the path at Beechwood Woods due to the poor state the footpath was left in following last year's resurfacing works. They've advised that the path is solidifying and usable, and that a quarry, which provides the aggregate for the path, is now available following improved weather, and works may be able to start soon. I understand further discussion on this will be coming to amenities next month, and thank you to parish officers particularly for their efforts on this, engaging with residents and Hampshire County Council. Diddon Purley. Due to the works in Beauty Road in DP, there have been temporary traffic lights causing delays and impacting access to local businesses in Ditton Purley for several months. Please can I encourage you all, residents and councillors, to show your support and promote the exit businesses in Ditton Purley after a very tough December. The works will hopefully be completed in a month or so, but it is important to remind our community of the exit traders in Ditton Purley and encourage shoppers to show their support. Finally, we've got a new website at Higham Ditton Parish Council. It's new and improved and it's much easier to use and accessible. Please can you all take a look, and that's everyone in the room, and let us know what you think. I'm really impressed personally by the layout, but we want to make sure that any feedback is shared with councillors and officers. Please promote it to the local community and encourage as many as possible to visit. Thank you ever so much. We now move on to councillor reports, and we kick off with our county councillor reports. Have you received any from our South Waterside councillor, Councillor McAvoy? Okay. We now move on to Ditton and Hythe councillor, Councillor Malcolm Wade. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Since the last parish council meeting, the county council has started its consultation on the budget gap of 132 million, which is how it's going to be addressed. It does not show any easy options, and without support from central government for 25-26 financial year, the people of Hampshire will suffer considerable service reductions across all its areas. I attended the Chatham Finish Group looking into the savings of the library service, mainly around the reduction of book stocks. On the positive side, there are no plans to consider shutting libraries. The 19th of January, I attended the Children and Young People Select Committee, and the main topic was 2024-25 Revenue Budget Report for Children's Services. The cash limit for children's services in that report was £1,408.1 million, a 19.3 million increase on the previous year. The increase comprised budget changes relating to school supplementary grant 9 million and academy conversions 11.3 million, and the anticipated ending of the household support grant of 14.2 million. Inflation, growth and pressures covering the 24-25 non-paying inflation, school transport 24.9 million, growth in looked after children 13.8 million, special educational needs and educational psychologists 3.8 million. Quite high water in figures this is. The final direct schools grant allocations now be added and will be included in the February budget report, increasing the cash limit to £1,499.9 million. The autumn statement delivered by the Chancellor on the 22nd of November did not include any additional financial measures to ease pressure facing local authorities. The announcement of a higher national living wage for 24-25 than the previously forecast is likely to result in additional financial pressures for the Council, both through increasing costs for our service providers and also impacting future local government payables. It was also notable that the tightening of medium-term spending limits set by the government suggests a worrying direction of travel for future funding settlements. So the future continues to look less than rosy, not only for the Council as a whole, but children's services too. The meeting on a more positive note examined the Children's School Capital Programme, showing the new schools to be built in the area of new housing and the improvement of existing schools. It was noted that the new forest will have an excess of secondary school places, which will continue for a few years. We also discussed school transport and the lessons learned from the previous year's failures and the feedback from the consultation. Improvements are being put in place to address the issues raised. There's also a brief update on autism services. There are just over 20,000 people waiting for Autism Spectrum Condition, ASC, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder Assessment across the Hampshire and Isle of Wight geographical footprint. In Hampshire there are 4,242 children and young people waiting an autism assessment. The current average diagnostic rate prior to screening for children and young people in Hampshire is 70.6%. This equates to 0.9% of the total population in Hampshire, which is slightly under the national average of 4%. On a different note, the Ealing to Highbury cycle route, including the works at Ditton Route, have been delayed by the contractor not keeping to the proposed schedule of work, which is why there were still traffic lights over the Christmas period when there should have been none. Whilst there is some excuse for the heavy downpour delaying things, local people have been understandably frustrated by the apparent lack of work on some days, a fact I have reported to the implementation team, which is managing the project. There has also upset the Ditton Purley businesses, many of whom have lost revenue over the period of the works, which are also passed on to Hampshire County Council. It hopes all the works will be complete by the end of February. As I may have mentioned before, this is government money, it has to be spent by the end of March. The flooding issues along the recurring potholes on both subjects allowing onto highways and how to ensure the proper actions are in place to resolve them going forward. And just an hour before I came out tonight, hot off the press, the government, you may have seen, have decided to have a package of 600 million to support local government. Don't jump up too much. 500 million of that is to be allocated as for grants for social care. Now, I don't know how much Hampshire's going to get, but it will be in the region of 7.5 and 10 million for 24, but it's a 1 year settlement. Right? Funny, there must be an election coming up. Anyway, at the very least, it will help reduce the 85 million budget gap which we face in 24-25, but they will still have to look for 90 million pound reserves. It should be carried, if it should be carried forward into 25 to 60 and beyond, it will then help in the recurring gap now at 41 million. But that's only if it's carried forward, otherwise we're in the same boat we were, as I mentioned in the meeting earlier. The reality is that it will not impact much on the County Council except for this one-off payment. And the other 100 million spread across the districts across the country will make absolutely no difference at all. Right, this 500 million as a one-off payment will make a difference to this year's social care, but sadly not for future year's social care unless it's committed money, which of course is. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Malcolm Wade. We're now going to go through district councillors. We'll go alphabetical. Councillor Sean Cullen, High South.
I do believe Councillor Clark comes before me alphabetical.
You're all right, I don't know why. I've also you very interesting. So we'll start with you, Councillor Cullen.
As with yourself, I attended the Oversight School panel recently and asked questions about air source heat pumps, predominantly noises and its performance against ambient air temperature, and because these items are nickable, what security procedures are going to be taken.
Thank you. Your High South partner in crime, Councillor Mark Clark, please.
I serve on the HR committee, but I think it's not much reporting on that, particularly if it's still returned to the council, so that's it.
Thank you. So now we move on to Councillor Philip Dowd.
Nothing of any interest to report. Thank you.
So Councillor Osborne gave her apologies, so we turn to the district report, Councillor Malcolm Wade.
Okay. NFTC packed a very heavy agenda into December's cabinet meeting, 9 items, and for the decisions to be ratified at Assembly Council meeting. They were the corporate plan for public consultation, Transformation Strategy 24-28, future New Forest transforming tomorrow together, update report, new guidance on recycling and waste strategy, and plan service change. So they've all that time decided about which bins are going to have, government threw the hand grenade at the last minute. Oh well, all very helpful. If you want bins or you don't want bins, they're still coming, unfortunately. Updated council tax 24-25, set tax base, council tax reduction scheme 24-25, housing benefit and private rush, medium term financial plan 23 onwards, rural legal and prosperity fund investment, forthcoming infrastructure improvements, supporting the armed forces and the armed forces covenant, which we should have done many years ago, and freedom of leisure contract variation. The latter item explaining the cost of utilities during year one were 984,000, an increase of 457,000. This is freedom of leisure compared to the tender, and the cost of utilities during year two were 1,275,000, an increase of 786,000. The council's budget for 22-23, which covers the majority of year two contract, included a 475,000 contingency built into the general fund budget to take account of the contractual net income adjustment and other potential financial matters arising. A further 400,000, those of money here, was placed in a provision which will now be used to fund the council's contribution towards year two utility payment. Clearly, Freedom of Leisure's business model is so fragile, it has not the contingency on its own, and the Conservative administration is just going to pay up as it has got into this agreement and doesn't want to get out of it. The issue went to the council meeting where we asked for reassurances to be built into the deal to ensure that people and organisations using the leisure centres were protected so there's no repeat of the swimming club debacle. The administration further demonstrated their lack of business and political intelligence by refusing to do so. On the 11th of January, while Southern Council Osborne intended to place sustainability overview as scrutiny panel, two main topics on the review, which we all agree is well known, is the climate change and meteorology update. The open power question. The actions NFDC have done so far are low-risk cost activities with few barriers to delivery. They lay the foundations for future more formidable improvements against climate change. The impact of these actions in themselves are often hard to measure, as they don't necessarily give us a direct and quantifiable carbon cost or environmental savings. The work over the last year has been focused on integrating the climate and sustainability manager role, both within FDC and the wider network of partners. This included building relationships at the right level, gathering information about past, present and future projects, priorities and risks, understanding the appetite for activities, raising awareness of key issues with officers and members, and starting to field climate sustainability thinking in day-to-day activities across all council services. The strong base created since the declaration of the climate and natural emergency activity will now move beyond foundation projects to initiatives and service changes that result in significant improvements across all programme areas. The Strategy Action Plan and annual report to be published in 2024 should reflect this change of emphasis and provide clarity on both internal and external priorities, including where possible, the creation of challenging but achievable targets. It is essentially a work in progress, but its challenge in getting the many concerned councils or environmentally naive to understand how important these actions are. Could we actually work together to protect our environment and the relevant climate change?
Thank you, Councillor Martin Wade. So now we move on to my district council report. Again, sorry, it's alongside a couple of panels. I attended Resources Transformation Committee last week, where we agreed the asset maintenance and replacement programme covering 24-25. Health and Leisure annual maintenance will have £750,000 allocated, and there will be 1.65 million on vehicles and plant replacement. The overall budget is £16.5 million. The Finance Chief Officer did confirm that the government will be providing a positive contribution to support NFDC in the rollout of food waste collection, with a grant of 1.8 million, which almost matched NFDC's budget prediction. And the panel also agreed on the capital strategy with no major concerns, although investment in property due to wider conditions with interest rates have led to stepping back on this programme. We've had presentations on ICT strategy and benefits. NFDC want to improve ICT access for residents and bring all internal and external systems up to modern standards. Those include works on payments, contact centre and moving core systems. I did ask that if any improvements must account for access on all devices for all residents in all areas of the forest when all have sometimes mixed ability Wi-Fi access, which was, to be fair, taken on board by officers. I did also reference the planning portal, which is a particular concern for the chairman of planning, where they do struggle for access for that in meetings. NFDC's ICT projects all on schedule by Regulatory Services Project, which is an aging system that's probably the most important to do with planning and building control and land charges, and I suggested that needed a real prioritisation considering it was so important. We also had a presentation on the Future New Forest Strategy, which reviews the current tasks undertaken by officers and any opportunities for savings and efficiencies and improvement on existing activities. They will explore 10 customer-facing tasks to see how they can be more efficient, and such as applying for planning permission and reporting on housing. I did ask if resident and customer feedback on these processes can be part of the feedback to improve, so anything is about to be improvement to you rather than just for the sake of it. And I did receive an encouraging response, and I understand that parish council clerks are feeding back into this process as well. It's also important to note that making sure parish and town offices, as part of any digital and ICT strategy, are still part of the process as people value them and attending them. And we know that members of marketing meetings very much value having our parish office here in the centre. I've asked for KPIs for both this and the Housing and Communities Committee, and officers were responsive as they're working on having KPIs to match the new corporate plan, but this will be later this year. It shows how well or not NFDC is performing against its own targets and showing proper scrutinised really. I've also received confirmation from the council leader that NFDC will be responding as a corporate body to HCC's consultation. As you can appreciate, areas of concern for NFDC are such as risk of closure at the tips will increase fly tipping, and fly tipping is an NFDC responsibility. It's up 7.5% as it is in the New Forest, according to figures I've seen today, and I know it went up from sitting on the equivalent panel last year. And also, reduced highway budget, damaging our roads as well. So there are concerns that NFDC will have, and officers will write a full comment on the consultation. NFDC is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, and there's different opportunities to commemorate. I did somewhat highlight that we need to engage more people in what NFDC do and encourage better representation. Just 1 in 6 councillors are female, which is pretty poor. I also attended Housing and Communities with Councillor Cullen. Community First presented, and I did encourage and invite them to attend our volunteer events. And obviously we'll be writing to them to try and support other councils with any support for hospital transport for local residents. Community grants were approved by the panel to go to Cabinet for 24-25. There was a record number this year, and many organisations that were not successful. It sort of reflects the challenges faced by local community groups, as well as NFDC, with limited funds to support all these amazing organisations. 130k of revenue and 96k capital grants were agreed, and the panel supported funding for 3 community transport projects. The Task and Finish Group did work on this for the best part of the week, including, I understand, Councillor Dowd, and will rightly praise their efforts. As part of the process, the group recommended that future grants have a minimum value of 3k rather than 1k, and any unspent council grants are transferred to the community grants budget. In our parish, there were grants awarded to Families Matter, Handy Trust, and the Crossings, as well as the Honey Pot, which is just outside our area, but it's well valued, although Applemore Waterside Swimming Club were not successful. I did ask that in any future review, that considerations given to raise individual council grants can be considered, which is an ambition to help support local groups and account for the fact that more are after valuable funding and there's less to go around. We had a presentation on the Safe New Forest Partnership of crime and disorder figures, where, as you've heard already, there's been a decrease in theft from persons, sexual offences and recorded ASB, and a decrease in theft from vehicles. However, shoplifting offences, criminal damage and possession of weapons and business and community burglary had increased. There was also a report on Parish and Town's Community Safety Questionnaire, with areas of concern being ASB, fly tipping, speeding and theft from outbuildings. As part of the plan, there is a focus on drug and alcohol harm, domestic abuse and tackling fear of crime through prevention and education. The final priority referenced the ACSOs, the Parish and Town Councils, as a resource allocation to support vulnerable and repeat victims of ASB. It was notable that our brilliant service was acknowledged in the plan as well. Housing revenue account was supported by the panel, with housing charges going up 7.7%, garage rents 15%, and a new approach to service charges to better reflect usage. With overall welcome feedback by tenants, those that responded, it's worth noting that most of the additional rides will be covered by universal credit or equivalent benefits, and I think about 75% of tenants will either receive these benefits and therefore not be impacted by these charges. We had a presentation on the greener housing strategy, as Councillor Cullen highlighted, and also the tenant engagement strategy. The only concern being that we have such poor feedback on the tenant satisfaction survey, despite NFDC being in the top 20% landlords comparable in the country, which is excellent, but they do need to work on their complaint strategy and responding to complaints. That was the only area of concern. Otherwise, outside of the committees, casework has been focused on flooding and draining issues in the village centre and north of Hollybank, planning and waste collection, and the county council, I have to say, have been very supportive, as I've emailed him on a lot of planning issues this month. Anyone in the room, please comment on the draft corporate plan for NFDC by Friday this week, and it's the strategy for the next 4 years for consultation. And lastly, regarding waste green bins, are beginning to arrive around the district as part of the new waste collection programme. Thank you for your patience there. So that brings an end to reports by county and district members. We now move on to reports from members on outside bodies. Has anyone attended the outside bodies since we last spoke?
No, what consultation meeting is held in February.
Thank you, Councillor Johns. Anyone else have any comments they wish to add on outside bodies before we move forward? No, thank you very much. We now move on to the public forum. Firstly, thank you so much for your patience. I apologise, the council report is quite understanding. So I'm going to start from the back. So there's lots of you here today, so it's 15 minutes. Please, as I say, you can patiently waiting. My report will be very long, so please take your time. So we'll start from the very back I know you had a question earlier to the police. Do you wish to ask another question?
No, that's fine.
Okay. So just the lady to your left, sorry, my right. Could you introduce yourself and your question, please, Simon?
Well, it's not really a question, it's some comments on the budget proposal for tonight.
Okay, thank you.
So I think I'm attending as a local resident. I'm just concerned at the proposed large rise in your precept requests for the parish. So a number of years ago, I spoke to councillors Malcolm Wade and Mark Clark about some of the items that are included in the budget for tonight, and today I contacted the clerk to the council regarding the agenda pack for tonight. So I just go straight on to item 13 in the budget. This shows an increase of £98,860 under the expenditure heading facilities. I couldn't see within the agenda papers what facilities actually consisted of, and so I don't have an idea of what the huge increase is required for. So I emailed the clerk and she responded very promptly saying that £84,400 of the £134,400 budget for facilities is for the provision of replacement vehicles and machinery. So my question would be, is the purchase of these replacement vehicles and machinery absolutely necessary? How many miles does each vehicle do each year? I mean, I'd love to change my car on a regular basis, but I don't. And I think this large increase needs justifying. I see the vehicles out and about. They look reasonably new to me, but I can't tell how old they are because there's no budget explanatory report that I can see. So therefore I can't see the reasons why any replacement is required. Sorry, I'm on your... No. So anyway, with this information I could then ask why has, the replacement of these items not been saved up for each year instead of having one large amount in the budget for this coming financial year. Is there any way to reduce this amount? Do you have to replace all of them? Can you use more reserves because you are already proposing to use 34,000? So also the clerk then forwarded to me the Paris picture which she advised is due to arrive in our homes in the next few weeks and provides an explanation of the 16.6% increase in precept. So it seems to me then the 2024 and 25 budget has already been approved before this meeting and the magazine is ready to go to print with the explanations. I note the report of the ASO officers, item 3, and when I talked to Councillor Malcolm Wade previously, he advised that when councillors went out on the doorstep canvassing, parishioners very much wanted this service reinstated. The cost of the service is included with CCTV, so could I please ask for separate figures of what these items are actually costing us? I can see that they produce a community partnership information form relating to any incident which then gets sent to the police. I also know that they say residents are afraid to go out in Hyde, especially in the evenings. So could I please ask what the working rota is for these officers, as surely it would make sense if they were present at times of the highest probability of trouble, e.g. evenings and weekends. Therefore we're getting value for money. And finally, please do not feel that I'm being critical of your proposed budget. I can see that some headings have been reduced and others have been increased. So I'm sure that the budget has been considered from all angles, and I do understand the amount of work that goes into producing this. But the information provided to us at the moment, I can't completely grasp the reasons for the proposed 16.6% increase, especially as the increase last year was also 11%. Sorry, thank you very much.
I'm trying my best to answer what I can. There might be some responses that we have to put in writing after the meeting.
No, I didn't give my name, I'm Sue Markidis.
Okay, so I'll start with the vehicles. Now, last year's budget, so we had a sort of rolling programme where there's a significant amount of vehicle replacements that we've had to work on, particularly over the last year and plan for the year forward. There were some vehicles that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Sean and Sue, that were pushed, that we had to fund last year for the precept, but also that we did have to delay to try and reduce the precept at that time. Looking at this year, there were some challenges that we had were, do we push some back versus the depreciation of the vehicles, and there's been a significant rise in new vehicles that we've had to purchase and replace. And as I understood, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, but the challenges we faced were depreciation existing. There was a high rise in what we were looking to replace them with, so it was sort of trying to manage what would be the most cost-effective approach. There were some vehicles that have stretched their lifespan, and there are some that we have pushed back a year or two. So it's quite, there is a plant and vehicle machinery replacement programme, and it's quite scattered, but there are some significant purchases this year, but there are some items that are scheduled for next year and the year after that. Is there anything else I've missed on that point?
It's a 5-year replacement programme. It's not just random one item you buy in a car. It's, you know, they're all various vehicles, and they do have quite a hard life. It's quite a large parish, and wooded green areas to cut and maintain, and they do have a hard life. And that's not out of the ordinary for other parishes around here in terms of vehicle machinery replacement either.
Okay, so would it be
So
useful?
I think Councillor Switcher answer the questions as much as you can, because obviously you had lots of questions. I don't want councillors to forget your questions.
CCTV, off the top of my head, please correct, it's about 5.8k, isn't it? 6k, the CCTV contribution. I think that's 5,800. There you go. I just happen to remember that figure, so you did ask that specifically. Working rota, I'm not really sure that we cannot give that information. We can obviously, a lot of the examples in here are where, from the ACSO report, where the ACSOs were there, and you know, when we see them coming out of meetings, it's late at night, it's 8 o'clock, it's 9 o'clock, and they are, to use the better hand phrase, following this group around and other challenging areas. So they are trying to prioritise their hours around where the core issues are. I'm not going to bring other councillors in for this one because we've got a lot of members of the public. No, I'm going to take it from the chair. On the question of, sorry, as I picked CCTV, we picked up the vans, we picked up the working rota. Any other core points?
The fact that the budget hasn't been approved until this evening. Can I just say that because the parish picture had to go into production, it was actually destined to go into production in December. It was delayed again for other reasons, and we didn't want to miss that opportunity, even though I do grant you it's not being approved until this evening. Absolutely agree. And if there was anything different approved this evening, then we would put it in a subsequent publication and announce that. But we didn't want the public and the community to miss the opportunity of receiving as much information as possible about how, you know, the precept and the money has been spent.
And you're right, the budget hasn't been signed off yet. You mentioned the point about the budget process. Yes, no councillor, no resident wants to raise the precept any more than we have to. This budget, last year's budget, I found incredibly difficult. This year, I think it's even harder, and I think future ones, all town and parish councils are going to be challenging. For example, I know a lot of our fellow parish councils are going to have issues with NFDC and the contract of collecting the bins. You know, for example, Milford-on-Sea, I understand has been impacted by that this year, and we've had issues with utilities, we've had issues with sort of rising prices, and inflation has really impacted this council, and we do have limited revenue opportunities, and this budget we have earmarked, obviously reserved for a lot of core projects, but I completely understand no one wants the precept rise as it is, but we've had budget meetings with finance officers and councillors. All councillors are invited to that meeting, and there was really sort of good opportunities to go through the budget and try and find any possible savings that we can. But that's been done over the last 2-3 years, anyone who works for town and parish council knows that we've been struggling, struggling for funding and opportunities for many years, and it is tough, and it has been a tough budget, and I do understand the frustration, but I can tell you that every available saving that could conceivably be made was sought over the last 2 years. Please, my apologies. Is there anything else that I've missed?
Chairman.
No, I'm not going to bring. No, I'm not going to bring.
Chief, I'm right to put some context.
Councillor Mays, can I please let the member of the public?
Yeah, I don't want to help answer the member of the public.
Sorry, I believe you might have one more point I might have missed.
No, I think that's fine. I think that's okay. You've explained, but I think it would have been useful within the agenda pack to have the reasons for these increases. There's no actual explanation in there, so I couldn't tell why there was an extra 100,000 in there.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask for a brief response. Yeah, we've got lots of members of the public out the way.
What's important is to put some context to this. During the pandemic, this council did not raise its council tax. And we looked all subsequent years for the smallest possible rise we could because we were concerned about the cost of living for local people. Hyde and Dibden has the lowest standing property council tax in the Waterside for the efforts of this council. Because the Hampshire County Council and District are all the same, ours was always less. But you reach a point where you have to spend some money to still provide services. And we delayed buying some of the vehicles so we could keep the council tax down when people were hard up. But now the time has come and it's 42 pence a week extra. It's not even a bottle of milk, right? We have to do this because we need to maintain the level of services for the people of Hyde and Dibden. But I still suspect our council tax will still be one of the cheapest on the Waterside because of the work of the council. Thank you.
I would just also add a point is that we've also been searching for other funding. As you know, you get Section 106 and SIL funding, and we'll be looking at every opportunity to utilise that for our work on open spaces and play areas as well. So as part of our play area role strategy, we've been searching for opportunities to utilise that funding as well. Because as you can appreciate, anyone associated with any parish and town council, those funding opportunities really do matter to continue sort of the core open areas that you look after. I'm going to move on to the next resident. Do you mind if I come back to you after the ladies who...
I just wanted a point of clarification.
Oh, sorry, never mind.
When you were talking about the vehicles, I think the parish clerk said it was a 5-year rolling plan. So that means you plan ahead. Forgive my ignorance, but that means you plan ahead, so you know what vehicles are going to need replacing in 5 years. Is that right?
If you plan ahead, it doesn't mean that you cannot alter it each year according to what requirements are. So even if you plan for the next 5 years, in year 1 you might change it, which changes a subsequent year. Previously, Council decided in its wisdom, as Councillor Wade has explained to you, to delay a rise in the precept, to actually not increase it so much last time, so that it was pushed further out. But that does have consequences if we do it again, because you have higher depreciation, you have less resale value, and with inflation you have higher prices of vehicles to purchase. So it all has a knock-on effect if you keep doing that and keep pushing off those purchases. So you might have a 5-year rolling plan, which then becomes year 6 and you knock off year 1, year 7, etc. It's not a finite thing. You know, it is a rolling thing. Because it doesn't end after 5 years.
No, I'm not saying it ends after 5 years, but what I meant was, if you're doing that 5-year rolling on, you've allowed, if you like, for that much expenditure. But what you're saying is because that was changed, it's built up, is that right? And gone? That's why it's higher than possibly in previous years, because you held back, but at some point it's got to be... I'm not being critical, I'm just trying to understand how it works.
I think it's no different to what both Councillor Ways have just explained to you, in that the vehicle and machinery is not cheap at the moment, as you well know.
Yeah.
And we're always going to have to be buying that kind of machinery, because it's part of the council business to maintain the open space.
but it's largely because she fell back in the previous year.
I think the point is that this and other councils do review what can they spend this year, can they push something back versus and some of that is done, and NFTC has done that as well. I quoted the budget figures they have for their plant and machinery, and that has to be taken into account. And that's my very first point I made, was that versus the depreciation, the materials. How do you do that year on year? And they are part of the biggest expenses that this council will have, and they're only going to get more expensive. But we need them to maintain the open areas. We've got quite a lot of play areas and open spaces.
Okay, that's right. I just wanted to
No,
understand.
that's absolutely fine. I completely understand the question. Thank you for your patience. I'll give you a question. Introduce your name and your question, please.
It's questions, but also just concerns. I mean, the first thing was, back in it's Danny Alexander.
Thank you, Sandra.
So back in 2020, years in 21, with regards to the zero precept, the first thing I will say that I noted on that, there was no great reduction in expenditure. I didn't see any additional income coming in. I believe that 0% precept was down to taking money from general reserves. That is the first thing I noticed on those zero precepts. The first thing I'm going to bring up is the accredited community safety officers. I was looking at the action plan for year ending 21 to 23. It states in there that you're looking at a reintroduction of the ACSOs, and for that first year it's £100,000. Thereafter, you're looking at £70,000 a year. I've actually looked through the community safety and youth services on budget. I've done a bit of calculating. I've stripped out the known costs for youth services, etc. I've worked out it's actually higher than 70%, £70,000. I've worked out it's actually 9% of our precept this year is for the ACSOs. That is a lot of money. And that's for 2 ACSOs. I don't think that the budget is being very transparent. It looks very condensed down into the nominal codes, and you can't actually see exactly what is going where for that money. It's not very clear. There was a couple of other things. One thing I noted was on your workshop for your phase 1 and 2. For phase 1, you've got £35,000, phase 2, £26,000. So that's £61,000. And you said that you're going to take that out of the community infrastructure levy, which is fine. I can see that on the budget. I can see that on the, actually within the earmarked reserves, you had the 97,000 in there. So that leaves 70,000 to pay. My question was, you've also got on there, on the earmarked reserves, I can't see if they've moved or not. I think that was an important bit of information that we're actually missing from the agenda. But if it hasn't moved, you've actually got workshop to be carried out, workshop repairs, etc. You've got another 95,000 in there, but you only need another 70. So my question would be, is that 25 in addition? Is that going to be an underspend, and could that go back to general reserves?
Sid, do you have more questions? Is that your last question?
I could also bring up, I'm going to give you a little bit of a headache, Ballydean. And I was going to actually ask you the situation on that, because I can see again you had last year, financial year, on your accounts, 121,000 for Ballydean. I can see that in your report you were looking for it to cost you £160,000. I was going to ask, how far along are you with that? And is that remaining money to be for the cost of the repairs of the pipes, or is that the legal fees that you're looking at? I'm guessing you're looking to transfer on the land, from what I can see with Hampshire County Council negotiations. Would I be correct in saying that?
No, there's okay, I'll go backwards to the last point. We're not negotiating with Hampshire County Council on that project in time, but that was somewhere that we were looking at quite a few steps back, and that's no longer part of the process. That's not related to the legal fees.
Okay, so is that been removed from the earmarked
Lots of
reserves?
questions being fired up and lots of figures here. I think this needs to be, it's not the right
Now, there are some items that we can probably come back specifically in writing that we can make sure we give you correct information, and I certainly don't want to give you the wrong information. You've referenced the ACSOs, you've referenced the nominal codes, you've referenced the detail, you've referenced the workshop, you've referenced possible 25k overspends, you've referenced the ACSOs. Underspend, sorry. How about Miss Anything?
And just with regards to Valley Dean, EMR, the 121k that's in there, did that go back to general reserves?
I can't answer. When you're quick firing questions with figures all over the place, there is no way I can actually get into the account system and actually answer all the questions right now off the top of my head. I'm quite happy if you'd like to email in with specific questions, and we'll go through them at a later time and actually find the answers for you. But this is not the correct form to be firing away lots of detailed questions about figures right now, because I just don't have the answers, but I'm happy to find them later.
Yeah, I just think it would have been helpful looking at the budget. You've got the budget there, you've got the bank reconciliation there. It would have been helpful to know what was reserves, what was earmarked reserves, so that you could identify actually what is it represented by, the money that you're holding on behalf of your parishioners. How do you identify it? What are those reserves for?
We're not at the end of the financial year yet, so we will be able to give specific figures for earmark reserves at the end of the financial year. But I can say that there are no what you call free reserves. All reserves are earmarked for specific projects.
Okay, all right. What I'll do is I'll give you an email and I can ask those questions. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Thank you for your patience, sir. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Sorry to talk to you.
No, that's okay. If it is easier to sit down, you can sit down.
No, I can understand. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So, good evening and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I want to discuss council funding and the disparity between payments we make as the populace and how our money is spent. My name is Andy Wingrove, and due to an adverse reaction to the AstraZeneca COVID vaccine in March 2021, I've had my life and my health completely impacted upon. As I try to recover and get myself well, I've had time to investigate matters affecting me and my family and the wider community. One such thing is the council tax payments we make. I previously believed that the council tax went directly to the council. However, I've since discovered this is not the case, and in fact payments go directly to HMRC, that is into what is generally termed the consolidation fund. The council are then allocated monies from the fund based on whatever metric the government sees fit to apply, with certain monies having been awarded with certain caveats. And there, well, I take issue with this. Firstly, given the tax take from all other sources, the council tax needs to remain with the local area. We see councils failing either due to government underfunding, mismanagement, or having large communities that make little or no contribution to their own area. Why should we have to fund these areas at the detriment of our own? Restricted budgets create a ludicrous situation like HTC considering closing recycling centres. How short-term and ill-conceived an idea could you get? Maybe this is a means to an end to create exceptions of increased charges. It is clear that this will reduce recycling, an apparent core objective, and increase fly tipping, creating more costs and degrading the environment. Which brings me on to my second point. I don't want my taxes spent on pointless exercises that meet some disguised agenda that are typically anti-human, reduce enough freedoms and standard of living. So, for example, increased requirements to erect CCTV and follow climate dictates. Even the Paris Council website states, Bidden Paris Council has declared a climate emergency. I can assure everyone here there is no climate emergency. Excuse me. The climate may be changing as it does naturally all the time, but it has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with man-made CO2. Zero carbon is an impossible aim. We are literally undermining and bankrupting our nation, making our manufacturing businesses uncompetitive and impacting on our society, with some families having to choose between eating and heating. And what for? To enable the likes of China to manufacture products in our name and oppress this population. I appreciate much of this, if not all of this, is outside of the control of the council. However, I feel that it's important that you're made aware of the dissatisfaction and frustration and anger many feel on this matter. There is growing groundswell of people who are wanting to challenge the payment of the council tax. Naively, I followed the perceived narrative that you have to pay council tax. Well, this is coming under scrutiny. Nobody has signed a contract to pay council tax. The councils are corporations. Council tax is not a local tax, and so covered by the Local Government Finance Act. As I've made clear, it's already an HMRC tax. And notwithstanding this, there are further major issues with the payment of taxation to the government. And that's to do with the fact in 1945, the British government signed and ratified the UN Charter, agreeing on behalf of the British people never to wage war, never to threaten or use force, never to harm or kill people, never to interfere in other nations' affairs, and to settle all disputes peacefully. In law, it's a statutory criminal offence in Britain to hand over money to a person or organisation if you have a reasonable cause to suspect that it will be used for criminal purpose, such as funding terrorism, war, or genocide. In such cases, the person is complicit in the crime and can be prosecuted in prison for aiding and abetting the crime.
Mr. Wingrove.
So, by definition, we have a legal duty to pay money over that could be used to fund these crimes. So, to finish, personally, I'm not against paying for local services. I want to contribute to society and live in a decent, safe, free environment. However, I feel that these fundamentals, sorry, my breath gets affected because of my condition. I feel that these fundamentals are under threat. Somehow, governments, councils and the like have forgotten who they work for and look to dictate to people when in fact mandated to work for the people. Thank you.
Thank you. So no, I do appreciate when it comes to Parish Council meetings. That's some meeting from November. You okay?
Yeah, sorry, it's just because of the vaccine, I had difficulty breathing, so sorry, I'm trying to... I appreciate the time pressures and I'm trying to talk quickly, and I'm trying to get my point across that there is this groundswell. People, I am not happy because of what's happening. And I know you guys, you know, everybody's here with the good intent, but people are getting really hacked off with it, and people are choosing and will, and I'm sure this comes at county level, people are getting sick of it.
I'm going to leave this on that parish, districts and county councils are acutely aware that all of them in the district and county are elected by about 35% of the public. That's 65% of people who don't vote. There is an engagement issue. We're all aware of it. It's not good enough. And by 35%, I mean whatever percent of that 35% choose to vote for whoever's in this room. So we know that there are people who aren't engaged, people who are frustrated by the process. Obviously, at this very level of council, we have the precept that comes with the smaller section that you pay as your council tax, and obviously any income that the council makes. And there are areas that you make that you highlight a concern. Some that are probably out of the parish council's revenue, but I really do appreciate you taking the time to highlight.
And I appreciate that, but unless we start at this level, how are we ever going to change anything in this country? It needs to be filtered upwards, okay? Because if I wanted to sit in front of the county council, would I be given the opportunity to have this discussion? No, I wouldn't be. And so I have to speak to you guys, because at the end of the day, it will be our community that will suffer, because people will just say, I've had enough, I'm not spending it. And I don't want to live in that society, and I'm sure nobody else does either.
No, I appreciate that, Mr. Wingrove, thank you. Thank you, thank you. And I just was said that I have a passion, really. Going to meetings in January, it's really encouraging to hear. We might not agree on everything, but your passion and your care for the community, that's amazing.
I want to have the dialogue. I want to have the dialogue on the climate. We are literally undermining our country. All of our jobs and our manufacturing are going abroad. And why? Because we deliberately, as a country, decided to make energy really, really expensive. China don't care. In the first quarter of last year, they put on more power stations releasing more CO2 than we do in the whole of the UK in a year. That was just their increase in the first quarter, not what we're doing for
I think outside of this meeting, I'd be happy to.
I'd love to. I'd love to engage with
people. I'm more than happy to. Okay. Yes. Thank you. I'm now going to move on to our last person. Nick, introduce yourself and your question, please. And again,
without much to speak. Good evening, councillors. My name is Lindsay Shelley. I'm a resident of Waterside, and I'd like to take just a few minutes to discuss local councillors helping to support our MPs across the country. I would like specifically to refer to MP Andrew Bridgen, who has in recent months been fighting to bring to Parliament a debate on the alarming increase of excess deaths in the UK over the past few years, along with voicing his concerns about the upcoming WHO treaty with the European Parliament. To bring some context to these issues, as you're aware, Andrew Bridgen's investigation into excess deaths across the UK inevitably led him to investigate whether some were due to COVID-19 and or COVID vaccines. During his investigations and following him voicing his findings in Parliament, he was thrown out of his party, victimised and branded a conspiracy theorist. Nevertheless, he won the right to a 30-minute debate, which took place last week, and I actually took the time to look at this. I'm glad to say with the new support of 17 other MPs, One of whom is our New Forest MP, Christopher Chope. I can also confirm that MP Julian Lewis has also been approached by a number of his constituents with regards to this debate and is following its progress. With regards to the proposed WHO treaty currently being pushed through, Mr Bridgen has highlighted the very real concern that should it be approved, this would put the control of all decisions made around pandemic preparedness and actions such as lockdown, mask wearing, school and business closures, etc., along with decisions made about health and medical interventions such as testing, vaccines, etc., into the hands of a privately funded external organisation run by unelected individuals who, in fairness, did exactly do a great job advising governments around the world with regards to COVID. The COVID inquiry has so far shown that our government are clearly working ill-equipped to deal with the pandemic, and is gearing towards the need for an external body to manage all future and apparently imminent pandemics such as disease X. Please let us not be blind to the fact that our government were predominantly acting on the advice and recommendations of the WHO, the very people who they are now proposing we give total control to. So my reason for speaking today is not really about those issues, it's more that at the end of Andy Bridgen's recent 30-minute debate on excess deaths, he disclosed details of a meeting between himself and a senior member of his party, which ended with nothing short of a serious threat of personal discipline himself. Now, how can our MPs be expected to represent their constituents, sometimes about matters which may not suit the government narrative, or that may contain uncomfortable or inconvenient truths, if their jobs or well-being are being threatened behind closed doors? I ask as councillors, you take the time, as I did, to listen to what Mr Bridgen and Christopher Chope have had to say, especially in the most recent debate on excess deaths, and Mr Bridgen's address to the European Parliament regarding the WHO treaty. If you then feel after listening that there's a valid cause for concern, and I have to say I do, I honestly do, please find the time to write letters of support, or indeed of your own findings or concerns which may have been brought to your attention. If us as people, you as councillors, don't start to speak up and support those willing to put their necks on the line about matters as important as these, and of whom actually potentially affect every single one of us, I fear we are on a very, very slippery road to the total loss of democracy in our country.
Thank you. I think that is again an issue that I think some people in this room might have one view, people might have another view, might be contentious. So the councillors at all levels are engaged with on lots of campaign groups, and it's always up to them in their personal view whether they choose to support them, write letters, support. Some things come as a collective council. I probably think this might be one for individual parish district or county councils to explore, though some might have a conflicted view, not most of you. And some might be support, and they can write a message of support. But individual councils can go back and make their mind up, I think. Just as a parish council, I haven't had anything about that high levels might have had, but I do take the point on board, and I think individual councillors should be given the opportunity on some matters to have that. But
well, I think my main point here is that if someone, I've never heard of Andrew Bridgen. Yeah, I've never heard of him.
I don't want to have this as a
very, very quick point though, is if he can be treated like that, I'm presuming our own MP Julian Lewis can be treated like that. And I think no matter what party they are, these are our MPs. Whether it's not really about those two issues, those are the issues that happen, it's become enlightened, let's just say, in my head. But I would just ask that, whether it's that issue or another, is that councillors really try and give some support to our MPs, because there's clearly issues.
I genuinely do not think public participation ends in support for MPs of all things. But yes, I do take your point on board, and thank you for your questions. That brings to end public participation. Thank you. Do you know what's the first meeting of the year, and sometimes people don't come to these meetings when it's really nice weather and it's still sunny outside. So actually I'm really grateful. Thank you ever so much. So thank you so much for your questions, and anything that wasn't answered that we intend to write back to you, we'll write back to you with the answers that you asked for. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we now move on to the next item in the agenda, which is questions to councillors. Brief questions, it says. So item number 9, Councillor Harrison, you haven't spoken yet. Floor is yours.
It's a question for you, Chairman, or through you. Just briefly, as I've been out of the loop for 7 years, could you update me about Shaw Road? 2 parts. One is the cedar fences. Is anything forwarded on those? Because every time we have a major rain with a big high tide that floods, and it's been so for the last 100 years. And the other one is on the parking there, which is causing a lot of havoc and a lot of stress and a lot of issues. It's the main road, main route, heavy loads into the industrial area, and that parking all along one side is causing problems. So has there been any progress?
On the parking for Shore Road, is the county council, is there anything you could add to that?
Well, the county council, in response to lots of complaints from the public, is proposing to put a traffic order in to prevent parking on a section of that. I had expected to see it by now, so what I will do, I will take it on board to write to the Department of Services and ask them when they are going to do that, because they promised that.
Is that a section or sections?
Well, they're already complaining that as you go along past the old RAF base, you've got to drive on the wrong side of the road because of the cars. So really the whole section needs to be addressed with the yellow lines to prevent that, because there's a road safety issue. And they have said because there's so many people complained, they were going to address that.
Okay.
But so I have to explore why it hasn't been done and how much of the road we're going to do. So I will do that and get back to you.
Thank you. And the city benches, is there anything moving on that?
I am going to slightly bring Councillor Dowd only because you've engaged in IS. There's my understanding, no, is the unfortunately.
Well, we know that the Environment Agency is planning a large project along that stretch. At the moment, perhaps Sean can help me here, it's something like 4 years away.
Yeah. Philip and I met and seen that with the EA back in the COVID, and they are planning to do a review of high flood offences within 5 years from that date. Life is specifically, but it's on their radar to have a look at flood affected Hyde as a whole. And
Okay.
from that review will come, hopefully, some prospective schemes.
Thank you.
Councillor Dowd.
Yes, I don't necessarily expect an answer straight away from this one, Councillor Wade. Thank you for your answer full of figures and things. My question to you is, why is it that our local schools, when they're approaching the county council for help or information on children with special needs, are not even getting answers, let alone any solutions through that route?
Can I answer that? That is totally unacceptable. And if the local school wishes to email me their question, I will get that responded, because that's not acceptable. The county council should be dealing with results with speed and efficiency. Thank you.
Any other questions for councillors, or any other is Chairman aware? Councillor Clark and Councillor Wade.
Only insofar as the Chairman aware about the issue related to the school being used as a polling station. There was a very anxious letter from the school secretary this month. They're talking about the school. The District Council's offered a meeting so that we don't use the main hall for that. But were you aware, was there any other alternative?
That used to be my district ward, and I remember there being no other alternative, because the Grove is no longer within the ward boundary.
Yeah.
Historically, they used the Mountain Court Hotel, but that is no longer applicable.
For why?
I don't remember seeing what the last previous, this was used in 23. It was used, so it's not the Fountain Court Hotel. I don't remember there being any other alternative.
I'm glad you raised it. It's just I walked around there today. It's like a ghost town. I have no idea what's going on there.
I don't know what the future plans are, but I know pubs have been considered. I don't know if people would consider. Or no, actually, Malt technically falls into High Central, because previously half of that road was in High West and Lansdowne, but the boundary changes, that's now High Central. So I'm not sure that would be.
No, just trying to assist the school. That was all, because the concerns were very
even just off the top of my head, the only one I consider would be Traveller's Rest, but that's not very accessible. It's not very accessible for people to get to. But no, I wasn't aware of any, but I am aware of that situation. She shared that with me. Thank you. Councillor Malcolm.
Is the Chairman aware there is a petition on Facebook about not shutting Marshall Tip, not shutting Somerset Tip, so the New Forest retains its recycling centres, and I would encourage the chairman or residents of Leeds to sign this petition to try and keep it open, because that ship has got to stay.
I am aware, I'm delicate, it is raised by a political group, but it is still, the petition itself has had a lot of numbers, and it does show the strength of feeling, as I understand it's been signed by people all over the district, over 2,000 as I last checked, and a lot of people have spoken to me about it, so thank you for raising that. From the chairman, I'd just like to highlight that we are aware of feedback, so there's a recycled bus stop that's moved from Tesco's to Digdon, sort of opposite, top of Digdon Hill, opposite Oaklands Way, and we are aware of feedback that we've had about some of the graffiti that is on there. It is going to be painted off by the council, but feedback has been passed on about how we can make sure that certain things are covered before they arrive there, because
to respond to that, Chairman, we were, as a council, we were informed that bus shelter was going to be moved. The elevation that has or had some offensive graffiti on it wasn't the group that was stuck in the head of Tesco's. Anything that could be deemed as offensive has been removed by the Rangers team. We're still awaiting the paint. We're paying delivery for whatever reason yesterday. I expect that paint to be here by the end of the week. As soon as I can deploy labour, it will be done.
Okay, thank you for that. But I had feedback from a resident in particular on that matter that I shared.
I did see that.
And it has been publicly put on other members, so I just wanted to share that. And lastly, just district councillors, you have been asked for your feedback on the STIL funds. Obviously the parish is split in a couple, like other town and parish councils and other local organisations in the parish, but I'd encourage you to support the STIL fund applications for Beechwood Path, for the STIL, the speed device, and obviously there are other local organisations in there as well. Is that pen in the air for a question?
It is. Well, it's a comment actually too. It was thanks to Sean on the back of the bus stop issue. The various residents up around the Bluebell Close have said thank you very much for the planting area. Perhaps you can pass that on to Marcus. Walking dogs up there every day, and now the bus stop is removed. Obviously, the concern was whether there were any incidents of youngsters gathering in an antisocial manner, which doesn't appear to have occurred. And the more planting that goes on, he said encouragingly, to Marcus, the better in that area. Thank you very much for what they've done so far.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll bring that to a close, thank you. Now move on to item 10, which is the Council 3-year action plan. This is to appoint a member working group to formulate and develop a 3-year action plan for the Council in terms of strategic goals and objectives and delivery for the remaining 3 years of this term. This is in response to the external LGRC staffing review carried out recently and its deliberations on the Personnel Committee in November 23. The working group will be in late afternoons or early evening by Zoom and will be supported by one officer when required. This action plan is necessary to feed into other areas of the Council, such as succession planning, performance management and a clarification of officer roles to support Council objectives. Sue, is there anything you wish to add to that for officers' guidance? Council's guidance?
No, it's quite self-explanatory really, and it's to appoint members to the working group. I think there'll be lots of conversations coming from this, and it's something which I think the Personnel Committee was quite keen to put on to a council agenda.
Thank you. Phil, as Chair of Personnel, is there anything you wish to add to this?
No, it's self-explanatory.
Okay, Councillor Malcolm.
Should I wish to propose an amendment to make a 4-year plan? All councils are putting plans having to run their length and the first year of the next council, because you otherwise have a year of nothing planning happening. It's logical for a 4-year plan, and then the new council, if it wants to have a 4-year plan for the next 4 years. It's the way other councils do plans at all levels, and it is the sensible way to approach it. 4 years, so the new council is working to a plan already, and then they can, when they've got their feet under the table, instigate one of their own, if it wants to.
So that's your proposal? Yes, okay. Is there any comments you have to that? Sue?
I have no comment. You can do a 4-year, a 20-year, a 15-year.
It's
you can do whichever. Yeah, you could do whichever year period you like. It's all down to the council in situ at the time whether they want to proceed with it.
Okay. We'll come to that amendment. Is there a second for Councillor Malcolm-Wade's amendment? Okay, thank you. What we'll do is we'll take that as a vote now and we'll come through with it. So let's have a vote on that amendment. So I've got a proposal that the council's 3-year action plan is based on a 4-year action plan, taking into account the first year of the 2027 to 2031 council. Good grief, that feels. And so I've got, can I have all those in favour of Councillor Wade's amendment, please? Anyone against? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. So, councillor number-wise, what are we looking for? So obviously there's not councillors not in this room. So there's 4 councillors who might show their interest in this room. But is there anyone in this room who would proactively like to be on this group? Got 6 of you. Is that read the names out? So I've got Councillor Harrison, Councillor Delamere, Councillor Clark, Councillor Wade Malcolm, Councillor Dowd and Councillor Jones. That seems... Any more, that's half Councillor Fulton. Okay? So I've got 6 volunteers. You all happy to be on the group? Okay.
Who would like to lead on that? Would anyone like to lead on that?
Yeah. Is any councillor, or would you let them decide that? Decide that, Chair. So, can I have a proposal then that we have councillors Harrison, Delamere, Joines, Dowd, Clark and Wade Malcolm on the working group for the council's 4-year action plan?
So proposed.
Seconder? Councillor Clement, all those in favour? Thank you. Anyone against? And any abstentions? No, so that's approved. Is there anything else you wish to have from that, Sue? Thank you. We now move on to item 11, which is council and committee meeting dates July 24. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you. To July 25. You've got in your papers a list of meeting dates taking you up to July 25. How time flies. So, does anyone have any comments or questions? You'll note that there's also a request to delay the June 2024 GP&F committee by 1 week from the 19th to the 26th of July, as is noted in the papers. Yeah. Oh no, sorry, it is June, but it says July on here. Sorry. I read what's in front of me, if I can think of that. So, any comments, councillors? It's Wednesday sorted, by the way, for the rest of the year, for the next year. So can I have a proposal to accept the dates, Councillor Clark and Councillor Second Councillor Joines? So all those in favour of the proposed meeting dates for July 24 to 25, including delaying June 24 GP&F committee from the 19th to 26th of June, all those in favour? Thank you. Anyone against? And any abstentions? No? Thank you. So that brings us on to item 12, climate equality. And this is to note the reply from the Member of Parliament who kindly responded to my letter, that's item 12. Have you all had an opportunity to read his letter for noting?
Yeah.
It's just a noting, really, is no further comment? Okay? Anyone wish to add any comments before we move on? Thank you. We now move on to item 13, which is the budget and precept for 24-25. Now the 3 items are here, for A, B and C. A is to approve the council budget for 24-25. B is to approve the precept request to NFPC for 24-25. And C, if approved, is to note that core hire fees across all venues will rise by 10% unless leases dictate otherwise. And also to note that allotments will be considered at subsequent amenities committee meeting. So is there anything to add further to this?
I don't have anything to add further. We've had many budget meetings and soul searching on again, how to cut costs, and it's taken a long time to come up with this budget proposal.
Councillor Harrison to start.
Can I ask you, the council decided to completely reduce to zero the CCTV, does this reflect on their NFDC continuing the service?
Sorry, can I just respond? The council have had several meetings on the budget, and there was one that
before the GPF
committee, and the GPF committee ratified it. That was actually put forward by the working group to fund CCTV.
No, I don't fund it.
Yes, we had a discussion debate.
I didn't attend that meeting as well.
No, to be fair, we had 2 meetings for all councils, and there was some that attended, some other.
So you are funding?
No, we absolutely are. It was proposed in the budget group, it was confirmed by GPNF in a discussion there. So I confirm there is 5,000.
Have we had minutes for that?
Oh.
Have we had any minutes from that meeting?
Not for the budget working group, but the, I can't remember exactly what it says in the GPNF minutes, but they are online if you wish to look at them.
Yeah, we're definitely funding it.
Is there anything else, Councillor Harrison?
No, thanks.
Perfect. Okay. Any other comments on the budget? Okay, Councillor Bates, floor is yours.
Chairman, I think it's actually worth paying. This has been one of the most complicated budget processes that we've been through in a long time. I can quite understand members of the public frustrated because it's higher than the sort of percentage rise than they used to. Because we tried every way to try and how could we make it less. I mean, we had multiple meetings reviewing everything, what could we do. But we made a decision way back in pandemic and the cost of living crisis to really not expand our budget when we could have done. And many other councils did. We were one of the few that did that. And we did that for the right reasons to protect as much as we can. And it's not a big amount of money, even in many reasons, but to help the members of the public live in our area. You reach a point where you have to make some expenditure. And we looked at this. There are many councils spending much more than us. But as I said earlier, we've had the lowest standing council tax in the North Side for a considerable time. I suspect it's still going to be lower than most of the rest of councils around us, even after this. And it is only 42p a week. But it is what it is. Unfortunately, inflation, rising costs and rising expenditure, we have no control over that. We are the victims of the same cost of living issues that affect the nation and everywhere else. So, reluctantly, we had to come up with this budget. We would make it cheaper. Hopefully, future years, we will be able to make it cheaper. But it is what it is this year, and we have no choice. I think everybody tried really hard to get it as low as possible.
I do appreciate it. I do think that it's in the eye of the beholder, though. I think, I think there will be people who say it is just an extra 42 week. There will be people who like, actually, it's a significant rise year on year. But then again, I've seen reports from every parish town council doing this, and it simply is. I don't think any council can simply say it's not a notable rise because there is a percentage rise. But I can tell you that a lot of hard work has been done on this budget to get it to where it is, and opportunities this year and the previous year as well. The 2 years I've been chairman, I probably had more budget meetings and looked at every budget line in far more detail than I ever had, because we had to try and make little percentage savings here and there on how the council can run. Because when you start to make certain drastic cuts, you then miss out on services that the people expect in our community, like our players, like our open spaces, like our planters at ACSOs, our parish development role. And there is a lot of absolutely important responsibilities here that we have as council. You only have to see the work the Communities Committee do. I'm very proud of the hard work that officers have done in the budget, but I don't take anything away from what the residents this year and last year have written to me about the budget, and we have to take that into account and just work our hardest, which I know that we have done. There will be challenges next year. I don't know what NFDC's, the cost impact of NFDC's new process of collecting waste bins, because that has impacted some rural councils, and I can surely confirm that will impact this council for future budgets. There will be tree maintenance, obviously challenges with there as well, so we have to be acutely aware of this moving forward. Sorry, Councillor Clark.
Yeah, just one question really, and I didn't see the detail in the budget sheet, which was that speaking to New Milton Council, they're putting their own precept up by 19%. Over there. But one of the things they said was a sort of special case was the cost of the emptying of bins, which has been slowly shouldered from the New Forest District Council, and they don't want to pay it anymore. And I wondered how much that impacted our bottom line.
At the moment, it's a threat on the horizon.
Oh right, okay.
Yes.
So it's not impacting on the year then so far?
Not this one, no.
Fine, okay.
But it's mixed in with Godwin's. Currently we're looking into the Godwin elements and we're advised that the Lisbon element is going to follow. So it's something to be aware of.
The chance to follow. Okay.
And there will be some projects that this year start to come off the budget. Obviously, there's a huge, we've got to focus on Valley's Inn, we've got workshop, and obviously, there'll be different, there'll be areas that hopefully start to fall off the budget in future years. Those are big projects. The workshop's taking some time. The facility needs to be improved for our staff. They do in all weathers that job, and we deserve to have somewhere safe to be in. It's been a long-standing project for this council.
And to keep the machinery secure.
And keep the machinery safe and secure, which is again something that is what council tax goes on. We've also got new boiler at the parish hall, which is again our main income generator is our parish hall. So we have to look after it as an asset. It's it's an older building, we have to maintain it. We've seen 177 people go to the cinema on a January Tuesday. So we've got to maintain and support our core assets as well. And our community safety officers who do make a big difference to our community, as well as you've seen from the report and the engagement work. So, and that's what you mentioned, the play area improvement plan. Shaw Road is our next big play area project, which we're hoping to work on this year, which is again a play area that vastly deserves a bit of improvement, I believe, is sort of on the edge of your ward, Councillor Clark. So there's a lot of good projects this year, but we can't pretend it's not a tough budget, and we can't pretend it's not going to be tough for residents on all levels of council. So I am, proud of it, but I do know that it's been a challenging one this year.
Sorry, Chairman, can I just ask on that one point? I know that we've lost some revenue from it because if the field is waterlogged.
Oh, in the football pitches?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that one of the issues that we're intending to look at? Just look at that Shaw Road area that gets so waterlogged and therefore we miss out on
I've seen a report this week and the water table I think is 100% over where it should be.
No chance of legislating the sea to go down there.
Yeah, to be fair, honest with you, we do have the money, I might have the money to put drainage in there, and good drainage, where it go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, we can't do it through Road.
Sure.
No, because the football, it's in current interest. I remember I coached the football club, it's on the WhatsApp group, so I'm acutely aware how many times it's brought to me. But the weather's been extra poor here, and there's been matches called off all over the county and forest. But it does impact income and fees. That's an excellent point. But yes, so I'm very proud of the hard work that's gone into it. I do think it's a good budget, but we can't be cognizant that we've got to be cognizant of the impact on residents, in which we all are council taxpayers in this room as well. So, does anyone else have any comments they wish to make before we go to the voting?
Can I ask actually one question of the clerk? Is it possible just to average out what the increase on our precepts has been over maybe the last 10 years or something?
We'd have to go into the figures. I haven't been able to say so.
Is that possible in slow time?
Our phones are so slow.
Okay.
Sorry.
I can go back over 10 years.
Yeah, it would be nice to know what the average was.
Councillor Cummins got his hand in.
It was just a comment on what Councillor Clark was saying. I think the past 4 years have been extraordinary, so that, how are you going to calculate the average? Is it the arithmetic mean, in which case that's going to get dragged up by the last 4 years? I'm not too sure of the benefit of.
I would give actuals, then you can work out the
sure.
I'm sure when you have data, you look at the events and issues that have, you look at what's happened in that period of time and go, okay, that led to that, and sort of take that into consideration. I mean, we all know it's been an extraordinarily fast period of time for any parish, town, district or council council, to be fair. Okay, so councillors, it's been a long meeting, still plenty to go, so attention please. I'd like us to, item A is to approve the council budget for 24-2025. The information is in front of you. And just for clarification, the council budget will be, so we've got the tax base noted here as well, we've got the precept, and obviously which is 295 per bandy per week, which is a rise of 16.16%, and the proposed precept is £1,147,850.
Yeah. So the proposed precept, 147,850.
Yeah, 147,850, that's what I said. Okay, so can I have a proposal please to approve that? Please seconder. Can I, all those in favour to approve the council budget for 24-25 please? Thank you. Can I have anyone against? Thank you. Can I have any abstentions please? Thank you. Item B, to approve the precept request to NFBC for 24-25. Can I have a proposal please? Can I have a seconder? Can I have all those in favour please? Anyone against? Thank you. And anyone abstentions?
So Mark, you had your hand up. Is that against? No.
This is slow.
Okay.
Okay, so Item C. So because we've approved the budget, it's to note that all higher fees across all venues will rise by 10% unless the leases dictate otherwise. And also to note that allotments will be considered at subsequent amenity meetings. Okay? Good, thank you. We're now going to move on to item, thank you very much, councillors. Item 14. Thank you ever so much for attending. Have a good evening. Take care. So, item A is to receive the bank reconciliation report for November-December 2023. Is there anything that we need to be aware of? Okay. So, noting the vote on it. Okay, to note it, thank you. Item B, to approve the accounts payable for November-December 23. No, we need to approve these. So can I have a proposal, please? All those in favour? Anyone against? Thank you. Any abstentions? And to receive the third quarter budget analysis for April 2023. Sue, the opportunity to update us how we're doing.
Yeah, I'd just like to highlight that the tree budget will actually go over. There's nothing we can do about that. We'll probably go over by about 18,000 at the moment with the budget. We've had storms, we've had lots of pre-work, and these are things outside of the council's control.
Sorry, was that 1,800 or 18,000?
18,000.
Get the
Yeah, I'm
comment
afraid.
right there.
Yes,
Thank you.
That's the wrong side of it.
And also, just, so that's denoting.
So can we just hear what Sean was going to say?
That's the figure now, we may have some storms which may impact that further. That stands today, that's
the third quarter.
This is so far in the whole financial year.
We're going to we are projecting £18,000 spent at this point, but the weather being like it is, we could.
We've still got 2 months to have.
So, otherwise, it was simply encouraging, probably not as significant as 18k, but there is improvements in sort of income and other areas that are on track, but that's the only real headline concern, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you. I also want to share this with you, councillors. A note from the internal auditor. In our opinion, based on the evidence obtained, we can give assurance that the internal control systems to manage the risks identified, enabling the objectives to be achieved and good practice exists. Based on the sample tests we have carried out for this remote interim internal audit review, in our view, good control exists and the internal control procedures in operation are appropriate to meet the needs of Highbury Parish Council. The next internal audit has been arranged Thursday, 9th May 24. So basically, the internal auditor found no concerns with this parish council. So that's a credit to officers and the sound financial management of this council.
Just to put that in context, the internal auditor was...
councillors, can you pay attention, please?
The internal auditor did the internal audit for the first 8 months of this financial year. And again, that's initiative, but it just missed this council meeting, so we won't be interested at the next one.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to item 16, which is still funds and grant applications. 15, yeah. Thank you. To approve and ratify still usage as per recommendation of the December 23 GPF committee, namely grants that boardwalk community grant mass funding contribution of 20,100 is provided for special situations budget heading and SID speeding device. Still match contribution of 2,100 is provided from the ACSO budget funding. And finished. And B, you will see a layout there for still proposed usage there. As you can see, estimates for March and November, some notes, and the final figures. Is there anything, Sue, Sean, you wish to add?
No, I don't. I think it's crucial that the council agrees as much funding to give it the best chance of being approved at annual meeting.
Perfect. So, can I have any comments?
So proposed.
Okay, so I've got a proposer. Can I have a seconder? All those in favour? Anyone against? Any abstentions? Fantastic. So approved.
Was that for A?
Sorry, that was for A. Actually, that was for A. Let's go to B just for good practice. So B, which is the financial layout of the figures there. Can I have a proposal?
Isn't that just for noting B?
No, that's it. Can I have a proposal, please?
Proposed.
Can I have a second, please? All those in favour? Anyone against? Any abstentions? No. Perfect. We now exclude the press and the public.